Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the LAC YouTube channel. I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. So, by the way, on my way to the gym, that's why I don't, got the hair all done up and all that good stuff. But I had a conversation. I went to dinner with my family, and we were just kind of shooting the shit, waiting for the food. And my family is Christian to Christian leaning. Okay, I don't come from a non spiritual family. And now my grandparents are Protestant, and you may think, well, that doesn't matter that much. You'd be surprised just how much it does matter. As a man who was Protestant Christian, Baptist, who is now Orthodox, I can unequivocally say that it does matter. And I am reminded on a consistent basis in the conversations that I have with fellow Protestants, especially within my family, how much your interpretation of the Bible and the epistemological aspects that you apply end up applying to the rest of your life. And so the crux of the point that I made, and it was spurned by me watching the show Rome by HBO. When I was watching the show, I had a thought, because part of the show and its relevance is the marriages that they enter into. And I had a thought to myself, well, why did ancient Romans, hell, even ancient civilizations for that matter, have marriage? What was the point of marriage? They were not Christian. Because from my point of view, marriage, while not a completely total Christian concept, nowadays, and definitely from the Christian perspective, the importance and the value, such as holding marriage as sacred and a pact under God, stems from the Christian mindset. And I thought, well, but they're pagans. Why are they getting married? And so I looked it up on Google, and, Google did have a point. Back in the day, and this is no longer the case. I want to equivocally say that this is no longer the case in the West, okay? And so mainly I'm making the point of what is the point of getting married in modern day Western society. But back in the day, there was economical power, land. It was the joining of two families to increase the resources of said family and be able to protect themselves better. I mean, there definitely was multiple things, and for the nobility especially, there was a high level of importance with those things that I just listed, those characteristics that I just listed. But the fact is that nowadays that simply does not exist. And so, I raised the point at the dinner with my family, and I thought for sure that they were going to be in total agreement with me regarding what is the importance of marriage if you are a secularist. And my grandparents specifically were arguing that it's just as good and just as important, because what it is a joining of a man and a woman specifically, and that's going to play dividends here in a moment, instilling their values on their children. And so I said, well, hold on, because I was stunned. I thought for sure that they were going to be in total agreement with me. And so I thought for sure that they were going to say that they were going to be more on my side. And so I said, okay, well, from the standpoint of epistemology and meaning and purpose, because I pointed out, I go, well, okay, but you're applying your mindset as a Christian to them. And so if the only sticking point to you is whether it's a man and a woman, not the inclusion of God and Christian principles, then essentially you are taking out the meaning of God within marriage and why God holds it good and in high regard. And I'll take it a step further. The reason why homosexual marriage was ultimately allowed to pass was because of that exact mindset. That it does not, the sticking point is not God and biblical teachings. The sticking point is a man and a woman. And this is why and there's such a huge gaping hole in that logic and that argument, which is why the American government and Western governments were able to make it so it wasn't just a man and a woman, that it could be a man and a woman and a woman. Because if ultimately you do not include God and the only sticking point is what sex it is, that can be easily refuted. And I made the point, what's to stop? It's not even the values that make the importance or the purpose of secularists entering into marriage for them. It's the man and the woman part, because ultimately, under the law, right now, a man and a man can get married and they can still instill their values. And so I really made the point that their mindset is what has lent itself to allow that to happen, because it is not all of that. The sticking point is whether God and what it says biblically is introduced into the concept of marriage. And I'm not really surprised necessarily fully that they think this way, because they are Protestants. And that's why I said what I said at the beginning of the video, that you'd be surprised just how much it does play a role. Because specifically for my grandfather, he takes this very boomer separation between church and state, neoconservative viewpoint. And it was kind of disheartening, to tell you the truth, because no matter what I said, no matter what my challenges were, they just dug themselves deeper and deeper and saying, well, no, there is purpose behind a secular man and woman getting married. There is meaning behind it. And I'll just make the point very quickly. There is not, okay? So in modern times, where there is not a joining of resources and power and land and things like that, it merely becomes a symbolic representation. And so once it gets to that point, it becomes an epistemological, philosophical concept. And so it does matter what the reasoning and motivations are for entering into such an arrangement. And ultimately, if your only sticking point is whether it's a man and a woman, you are essentially taking the meaning of God completely out of it, and what God, the representation of God, and doing it under God means in the marriage. You are essentially taking that meaning away. And I said to them, okay, so essentially what you're saying is that if two pagans who support Ra or Zeus or, whatever fucking pagan god you want to say, if they believe in those two, you would, or those gods, those pagan gods, you would still say that, well, it has purpose, it has meaning, because they're still doing it as a man and a woman. But it's funny though, because ultimately the pagan mindset would argue as our government is mostly pagan, that it's just as okay if a guy and a guy or a woman and a woman do it. So it was very interesting and, like I said, disheartening. And I really do think that that is why that type of marriage has existed. The crux of this is the main question is, what is the purpose of secular marriage in the modern Western world? And the only answer that I really can come up with is maybe tax purposes. And, I made the point over and over and over again that, because my grandpa said, well, it's two people joining, it's them making a statement that they're going to be together forever. And I said, yet again, that is you applying your Christian mindset to secular people, which they do not hold those values. So it's irrelevant. They could just as easily, in their mindset, be together without marriage because they don't hold the reverence and sanctity of marriage from the Christian perspective. They could just as easily just be together without entering into a marriage. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Channel is definitely growing massively. I thank all of you guys who have supported the channel. There's definitely, losers on the internet. I will say that, with the emergence of the channel, there are some obsessive individuals. Your boy has been conservative all his life, and I could spout conservative teachings with my eyes closed. All right, guys, I love you guys so much. Like I said, like, comment, share, subscribe. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy, will out on facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you guys. See you kings next time. Christ is king. Peace.